Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to learn how to embellish an acrylic pour to turn it into a geode. I've started here with one of my acrylic pours on an 8x8 panel. I think it's really important that if you're going to embellish and add resin that you do your pour on panel because it doesn't sag in the middle when you add all this extra weight. And if you use canvas, sometimes it'll sag in the middle and you'll have to reinforce it. So you can use any of your acrylic pours. This one was just a flip cup pour that I did. This is really endless, the amount of things that you can do with these embellishments. Before embellishing my pour, I clean off my acrylic painting really well. I use Dawn dish soap and wash the surface a few times and let it dry for one more day. You want to make sure it's completely dry before adding resin because resin and water really don't mix well. Now, to start, I've started mixing resin. You can go back and look at some of my other videos to get some more of the resin basics. But for now, we're just going to mix up a little bit of resin, whatever you think is going to cover your pour. It's different for each size. So I've mixed up my equal parts, and I've started by adding this micro glitter. I did silver glitter and green glitter. And I'm going to spread it all over the surface of my pour. And this is what's going to give it that real shimmery, glittery effect. Now you can see my favorite tool that I'm using for resin work. It is a silicone brush. So the resin doesn't stick to it once it's dry. It'll just peel right off. It is my absolute favorite. You can get it online or in a craft store. Now I have my first layer of resin all on top of my acrylic, and I'm going to run a blowtorch over it, and you can see once I run that torch over that all the little micro bubbles pop. Now a blowtorch, if you guys have not done resin before, is absolutely necessary. You will not get the glassy finish that you want without a torch. Now you can see that I brought over a bowl of gold leaf. And here's where I'm going to embellish along some of the lines that I had that were in my original pour. You can put it anywhere on yours depending on what your acrylic pour looks like. I like doing it on the sides. I think it adds a little bit more flow to it. So when I'm doing my acrylic painting, I always try and have some areas in mind that I'm going to add the gold leaf. Now this gold leaf is going directly on top of the resin. It will adhere to the resin, so you don't have to use any other adhesive. And once I have it in place, I'm going back over with more resin on top of it, and that will further adhere it, and it'll bring out the shine of that gold leaf even more. At this time, you can go back and fill in any holes that you might see on the top of your painting with more resin. And then after you do that is when we're going to add some of the gemstone embellishment. I always keep on hand because I do lots of geode pours. I keep amethyst, quartz, rose quartz, and then I have a little bit of turquoise, some slate, but I have just an array of gemstones on hand. See, you can see some right here. Those are little quartz pieces. So those are going right on top of the gold leaf that has already been covered in the resin. And again, you don't need any adhesive. It will stick to the resin, and the resin will be its own adhesive. And here I'm putting some amethyst in, again, the same way. And then I think I'm going to go back in here and put a few bright pieces of turquoise in there. Once I have all of these gems in place, I'm going to use just the rest of my resin and coat all over the top of the gems again, and then I make sure that I also have my gold leaf going along the sides of the painting. This is a really deep panel. It's 1.5 inches deep, and I really like my design to go all over the sides. So once you're finished, just make sure the resin is coated and then run your blowtorch over it one more time to pop any of the bubbles, and be careful not to put your torch too close to your resin. It might burn it, and you also don't want to have your blowtorch lighting any of your gold leaf on fire, because if the gold leaf is popping through the resin, you could catch that. So make sure it's completely covered in the resin. and then we're going to let it dry according to the directions on your resin. Mine takes about 12 hours before I can touch it, but a lot of resins are 24 hours. So just don't touch it, cover it so that dust and particles don't get in it, and then we'll come back and we will finish embellishing it. Okay guys, I've let my painting sit overnight so that it is partially cured. It's completely hard to the touch and you're able to use these wonderful acrylic pens on them. You can get Posca pens online or in Hobby Lobby, or you can get another brand in a local craft store, but make sure they are acrylic pens that are made for glass or smooth surfaces, because you want them to not come off. And you can do this on the top of resin and it won't come off at all and you don't have to recoat it. So I like using the super fine tip and going along and embellishing some of the little lines in my pours. If you're doing silver leaf, you can use a silver pen, but I think the gold pen really complements the gold leaf. Now I'm going back in with a thicker gold pen, same brand. The other one I believe was a 2mm thickness, and I think this one is a 4mm thickness. And I like to add the differences of thick and thin lines. I think it gives it some dimension. So this part is really up to you. You can add whatever lines or details or embellishments you want. And again, these pens you can use on the top of your resin. And these are also really good pens to sign your work with. So once you finish with this, you don't have to recoat your painting in resin. You can if you want to, but it is perfectly fine to leave it on top of the resin like this. Now, once you are done embellishing it, let your resin geode cure fully according to your directions. Mine takes 72 hours to completely cure. So let it sit for 72 hours before deciding to either hang it up, or if you're selling it to ship, to pack it up. You could have your packing materials potentially stick if you don't wait for the full cure time. And thank you guys for tuning in to acrylic pouring this week. My name is Ann Upton. I would love to hear what you think about this embellished geode pour in the comments. And please let me know what other techniques and resin work you'd like to see from me next for a tutorial. Thanks, guys.